Once upon a time, nestled in a cozy little cottage on the edge of a sun-dappled village, lived a young boy named Jack. He shared his home with his dear, sweet mother. Now, Jack was a good-hearted boy, with a spirit as bright as a morning sun, but fortune hadn't been very kind to them lately. Their pantry was nearly bare, their pockets were empty, and their only remaining possession of any value was their gentle, kind-eyed cow, Milky White. One morning, Jack's mother looked at him with a heavy heart. "Jack," she said, her voice soft with sadness, "we have no money left to buy food. You must take our dear Milky White to the market and sell her. Please, be a good boy and get the best price you can." Jack, seeing the worry in his mother's eyes, nodded bravely. He patted Milky White's soft nose, tied a rope to her halter, and set off on the long, dusty road to the market. He hadn't walked very far when he came across a strange, hunched-over old man leaning on a gnarled walking stick. The man's eyes twinkled with a peculiar light. "Good morning, young man," he chirped. "And where might you be off to with such a fine cow?" "I'm going to the market to sell her, sir," Jack replied politely. The man squinted, looking Milky White up and down. "Sell her, a magnificent creature like this? I have a much better offer for you." From a worn leather pouch, the old man pulled out a handful of colorful beans. They weren't ordinary beans. They shimmered and seemed to glow with an inner light. "These," he whispered, "are magic beans. Plant them tonight, and by morning, they will grow right up to the sky. I'll trade you all of them for your cow." Jack's eyes widened in amazement. Magic beans! He imagined the wonder, the adventure. Forgetting all about the money, he quickly agreed. He handed the rope to the old man, pocketed the mysterious beans, and hurried back home, his heart thumping with excitement. But when he showed his mother the beans instead of a purse full of coins, her face fell. Her hopes turned to disappointment, and then to anger. "You foolish boy," she cried. "You traded our only cow for a handful of worthless beans? We're ruined!" And in her frustration, she snatched the beans from his hand and flung them out the window into the garden. That night, Jack went to bed without any supper, his stomach rumbling and his heart heavy with regret. But when Jack woke the next morning, the world outside his window was completely transformed. A colossal, green beanstalk, thick as an ancient tree trunk, had sprouted from where his mother had thrown the beans. It twisted up, 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 through the clouds and disappeared into the sky, just as the old man had promised. Forgetting his hunger, Jack was filled with a sense of wonder and determination. Without a second thought, he ran outside, grabbed onto the thick, leafy stalk, and began to climb. He climbed higher and higher, past the birds soaring in the sky, up through the fluffy white clouds. It felt like he climbed for hours, his muscles aching, but his curiosity pushed him onward. Finally, he broke through the top layer of clouds and found himself in a land unlike any he had ever seen. Before him lay a long, straight road leading to a gigantic castle that seemed to touch the heavens. Tired and hungry, Jack cautiously approached the enormous castle door and knocked. The door creaked open, and a giantess, a woman of astonishing size, peered down at him. "A boy!" she boomed, her voice like distant thunder, but her eyes were kind. "What are you doing all the way up here? You must run. My husband is a giant, and he loves nothing more than to eat boys for his supper. But Jack was so famished he could barely stand. "Please," he begged, "could you spare just a tiny crumb of bread?" The giantess had a soft heart. Taking pity on the small boy, she ushered him into her massive kitchen and gave him some bread and cheese. Just as he was finishing his meal, the whole castle began to tremble. Thump, thump, thump! The sound of colossal footsteps echoed through the halls. "It's my husband," the giantess gasped. "Quick, hide!" She swiftly opened a cupboard and bundled Jack inside. The door burst open, and a fearsome giant stomped into the room. He was a terrifying sight, with a wild beard and a booming voice. He sniffed the air, his huge nostrils flaring. "Fee-fi-fo-fum! I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive, or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." "Nonsense, dear," said the giantess calmly. "You're just smelling the stew I've made for your dinner." After he had devoured his enormous meal, the giant called for his treasures. He first brought out several bags heavy with gold coins, which he counted with great satisfaction. Then he commanded, "Bring me my hen." His wife brought him a small, plain-looking hen. The giant thundered, "Lay!" and to Jack's astonishment, the hen laid a perfect, solid gold egg. The giant chuckled, then brought out his final treasure, a beautiful golden harp. "Play!" he commanded, and the harp began to play the most enchanting melodies all by itself. Soon, the giant's head began to nod, and lulled by the sweet music, he fell into a deep, rumbling sleep. Seeing his chance, Jack quietly slipped out of the cupboard. He couldn't resist the thought of helping his mother. He tiptoed over to the table, snatched one of the heavy bags of gold, and scurried out of the castle as fast as his legs could carry him. He scrambled back to the beanstalk and slid all the way down. His mother was overjoyed to see him safe, and even more so when he emptied the bag of gold coins onto their table. Their money troubles were over. For a while, they lived comfortably. But Jack was an adventurous boy, and he couldn't forget the wonders he'd seen in the sky. So, one morning, he climbed the beanstalk again. This time, he crept into the castle while the giantess was out and hid himself. When the giant returned, demanding his treasures, Jack waited until he was asleep. Then, he snatched the hen that laid the golden eggs and made his escape. Now, with a daily supply of gold, they were truly rich. Still, Jack wasn't satisfied. The memory of the magical harp haunted him. He knew it was risky, but he had to have it. He climbed the beanstalk a third time, hiding in a large copper pot in the kitchen. He watched as the giant ate, brought out his magical hen, and finally, his beautiful harp. As the harp's music filled the air and the giant began to snore, Jack crept out. He carefully lifted the golden harp, but as he turned to leave, the harp cried out, "Master, Master, a boy is stealing me." The giant awoke with a furious roar. He leaped from his chair and lunged after Jack, who was already sprinting for his life. "Fee-fi-fo-fum!" the giant bellowed, his thundering footsteps shaking the very clouds. Jack reached the beanstalk and scrambled down as fast as he could, the giant right behind him. The whole stalk shook and swayed violently with the giant's immense weight. "Mother, Mother, bring me the axe!" Jack yelled as he neared the bottom. The moment Jack's feet touched the ground, he grabbed it and, with all his might, began to chop at the base of the enormous beanstalk. Chop! Chop, chop! The stalk groaned and creaked. With one final, mighty swing, Jack severed the trunk completely. There was a tremendous, rushing sound and a mighty crash. The giant and the beanstalk came tumbling down, and that was the end of the giant. From that day on, Jack and his mother lived a happy and prosperous life. They had the hen that laid the golden eggs and the magical harp that filled their cottage with beautiful music. Jack had learned a valuable lesson about bravery and taking chances, and he never again had to trade his possessions for a handful of beans. They lived in comfort and joy, all thanks to a little bit of magic and a whole lot of courage. Thank you so much for joining us on this adventure. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more magical tales. We can't wait to see you again next time. Bye for now.